will be a miracle if I can get through this video today with minimal swearing because I'm fired up. But how can you not be when we're surrounded by ideas and misconceptions that force people essentially into a mental health closet? Hey everyone, I'm Danica, and I'm your Monday vlogger for week 3, season 3 of UT Mental. And today's going to be a little more serious of a vlog and a lot more angry because today we're going to talk about stigma and what that is, how it manifests, my personal experience with stigma, and what I personally think that we should be doing about it. You know, when you're talking to a friend and they're like, oh, I'm so depressed, or I'm so OCD about that, or when you see somebody who's visibly upset and somebody else just dismisses it like, oh, they're crazy. Or how about my personal favorite, the sweeping judgments that people make about those with mental health issues. Like, people with depression are just lazy, or people with anxiety worry too much, or people with bipolar can't control themselves. And that's just touching the stigma surrounding the very common disorders, and there's so many others. These are all examples of how stigma manifests and how it perpetuates the mental health closet, which I'll get to in a second. Stigma regarding mental health, by my personal definition, is the ideas and stereotypes we have surrounding mental health and mental health issues and that actively negatively impact individuals. Stigma does this by A, creating an inaccurate depiction of mental health and those with mental health issues, and B, it makes it incredibly difficult for people to speak out and to seek help when they need it, or even to have an open discussion about mental health. And all of this sucks, like it really sucks.
So let's recap. Stigma is the awful and the inaccurate ideas that we have surrounding mental health, and the mental health closet is the silence that's forced on individuals where they feel, for whatever reason, such as personal safety, economic security, or lack of support, that they can't address mental health concerns and they can't speak openly about it.
And this is where I talk about some personal shit, and it's gonna be hella weird, but I think hearing about stigma and understanding it through somebody else's experience are two very different things, and I think having them both allow for a more comprehensive understanding of what stigma is and the impact that it really can have. So here we go. When I was 12, and for the following 6 years, I self-harmed. I was young and I was going through a lot and I didn't know any other coping mechanisms. So that's what I did. For 6 years, I hurt myself and it was hell. I mean, it was a coping mechanism, but it was hell. And a huge reason that it lasted so long was because I was terrified to tell anybody. I was terrified because of the stigma surrounding it. I was scared because I constantly heard things like people who hurt themselves are faking it, or they're attention seeking, or they're emo, whatever that even means. I was scared because I didn't want people to think that I was weak because that's how it was portrayed. And I was scared because I didn't want people to be disappointed in me, or I didn't want people to think I was weird. So for 6 years, that's how I dealt with stuff. And quitting was the hardest thing I've ever done. And staying in recovery is one of the hardest things I will ever do. Because it stays with you. When you hide something for so long and there's so many pressures to stay quiet about it, it makes it so hard to seek help. I never thought I was bad enough. No matter how many scars I had or how bad it got, I never thought that I was bad enough to get help. I thought that I would just get laughed at if I talked about it. And that's messed up. It's messed up that a kid, literally a child, is so terrified and so impacted by societal pressures that something so harmful as self-harm can last for 6 years. And it will likely impact me for the rest of my life. So stigma is real, it's very real. And the framework that we put mental health in and how we talk about it and how we react to it is crucial. Coming to university, I've had the opportunity to work with departments that reacted and talked about mental health like it should be, with respect and accommodation and discussing it openly. But I've also had the opportunity to work with departments that handled it punitively and further stigmatized individuals with mental health issues. Last year I worked as a Dawn on campus, and I grew a lot from that role, and I'm thankful for everything they gave me. But time and time again, I saw the administration from student housing and residence life punish and stigmatize individuals with mental health issues. I saw students being locked out of their houses when they came home from the hospital, or students being moved out of residence without their opinion heard or the opinion of mental health professionals considered, or I saw Dawns being pushed out of their role even though occupation is proven to be an important protective factor against mental illness. And that's atrocious. It's atrocious for two reasons. One, because everybody deserves a safe and a respectful environment where they can bring up mental health concerns, because mental health and mental illness, it's real and it's valid and it deserves respect and accommodation, and anything less further stigmatizes and harms individuals. And second, because it's a department that works to be inclusive and create a safe environment, even providing their dons with suicide alertness training. So they obviously want to be supporting and accommodating with mental health and mental health issues, but then they turn around and they do this stuff where students confide in residents and they put their trust in them and they put themselves in a vulnerable position, but then residents turns around and they break that trust and they put students in an even more vulnerable position, and they often add to the harm. And that's what needs to change. And I think the ways we do this are through combating stigma. And you can do that in any number of ways. You can do that through trying to create an open and a safe discussion surrounding mental health, like through UT Mental, or even just discussing it more frequently or openly with your friends and family. You can question things that people say. I'm not telling you to rudely call out somebody, but if somebody's like, oh, I'm so depressed today, you could ask them, what do you really mean by that? Or what are you really feeling? Because depression isn't simply an emotion, it's a disorder and it's a state, and it shouldn't be used in that context. You can educate yourself on mental health and mental health issues and how you manage it so that you can stay safer, and if somebody around you needs help, you can help them. And you can be aware of the resources around you, which I think is really important, because of being aware of resources gives a sense of community. It means that you're not alone and that there are people that can help you. And I think that my experience on campus this year reflects that a lot better. This year I had the opportunity to work with the Health and Counseling Center. And I'm not saying that the Health and Counseling Center is perfect as a whole, but within my role, I had a very different experience. In my role, my bosses have been supportive and understanding and caring and accommodating. Whether I had to leave to support a friend, or I dropped the ball on a few things because I was overwhelmed, or whether I had to leave to take care of myself, I was always met with respect and accommodation and trust. And it kind of went along the lines of this. Don't worry about it, Danny. Take care of yourself. If there's anything I can do to support you in work or life, just let me know. It was an open line of communication where I trusted them and they trusted me, and I had support there if I needed it or if I wanted it. And that's how it should be. Mental health should always be met with respect and accommodation. I could go on about this forever, as it's something I'm obviously super passionate about, but this video is already over length. So I hope you all learned something this week, or it caused you to think about mental health or stigma or anything like that. And if so, please feel free to comment or message me or share this video or do anything to take part in the conversation surrounding mental health. And make sure you check back for the rest of the week to see the vloggers and what they have to say around stigma.